Well, ladies and gents, it's October. The weather in LA turned delightfully cool this week, signifying that the summer is well behind us. As we head into winter, the home buying off-season continues to improve for buyers, if only ever so slightly, and it looks like vacancies in LA have finally reached a bottom. The big question on my mind is how the apparent end of the Delta surge is going to affect buyers and sellers as we reach the end of the year. Let's see what the numbers tell us. I'm Jon Schwartz, a house hacker, investor, and realtor in Los Angeles, California, and you're watching House Hack Los Angeles, a channel about winning in the Los Angeles real estate market. This is my bi-weekly market update for October 12th, 2021. Each Sunday, I review the week's MLS activity for Los Angeles County to bring you the latest in what's happening in our market. These numbers come straight from the MLS, and you won't find these graphs anywhere else because I make them. If this is your first time watching the update, here's a quick explainer. Each graph covers the previous 12 weeks. The bars represent actual weekly numbers, and the line represents the 4-week trailing average. This smooths out the noise and helps us identify trends. Now, let's get into this week's data. Looking at single-family listing activity, the net new listings 4-week average is now more than 100 units lower than it was 3 months ago. This is what we see in the off-season, less inventory, but because there are fewer buyers in the winter, pricing and other indicators tend to improve. And that's more or less what we're seeing. The average price per square foot of a home in Los Angeles continues to drop. The 4-week trailing average is at its lowest point in 3 months, though we may not see it drop much further, at least not until later in the winter. Median days on market is at 12.5 in the trailing average, while a month ago we were at 13.25. This suggests that the market cooled off right around the time kids went back to school and then held steady. You'll see that sale price to list price ratio has stubbornly remained above 100%. So prices have come down slightly, but it looks like buyer demand is maintaining a steady floor to the market. In condo listing activity, we see that the net new listings trailing average is beginning its off-season drop, as we predicted would happen in the last update. Looking at sales indicators, we have a mixed message going into the winter. Price per square foot is almost $20 higher than 3 months ago, with days on market having grown and sell price to list price ratio having declined. Based on these stats, I would expect condo prices to drop off a bit in the next month. If you're shopping for a condo, take your time. In residential multifamily listing activity, and remember we're talking about 2 to 4 unit buildings here, net new listings sees another week of declines. I've said again and again that the multifamily market isn't nearly as cyclical as the single family market, so we should see listing activity pick up a bit as we head toward the end of the year. In multifamily sales indicators, we see more static because the sample size is a lot smaller. That said, all metrics are a little more favorable than they were 3 months ago. Price per square foot is slightly down, median days on market is slightly up, and sell price to list price ratio is a hair down. Not bad, but also basically flat given the small sample size. And lastly, looking at LA County Vacancies as reported on Apartments.com, we've reached the moment that I've been anticipating for over a year. Vacancies have bottomed out. 3 weeks ago, Apartments.com reported 32,445 vacant apartments in Los Angeles County. Since then, that number has grown ever so slightly to 32,528. So this is the bottom. 32,500 vacant apartments. I would expect this number to grow slightly through the winter as newly built apartments come online until the spring lease-up season begins. In fact, I'm really excited to see what comes this spring. The spring is when people start to move again. More leases get signed, more homes get listed, and more homes get sold. This spring, COVID should finally be a manageable fact of life and no longer a debilitating pandemic. And this is according to Scott Gottlieb, former FDA commissioner and voice of reason over the last 18 months. He has a new book out and made the podcast rounds, during which he struck a pretty optimistic tone for 2022. I don't mean to get ahead of myself. On the agenda now is taking advantage of the home buying off-season to strike some great deals. If you're interested in a smarter way to buy a home in Los Angeles, check out this video about house hacking, or this video about how to analyze house hack deals, or get in touch through the link in the description. See you next week.